Hi, Kurt Lehner. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. From what I know you from, you are a Disney illustrator. You're a Marvel illustrator. But for those who don't know you, do you want to do like a little introduction? What do you do? Where you're from, and all of that?
So you're just sorry, you're cutting out. Do you want to
Oh
start
yeah,
again? Why don't we
no
start again?
worries. That kind of stuff
Yeah, I
happens
didn't
with
hear
these
the
videos.
question at all. I went to like a robot sound and then it conked out.
That might happen a little bit on the video chat. So what I asked is for people who might not know you, who might not know what you do a little bit, or where you're from, your inspiration. Would you mind giving a little bit of that?
Sure. So my name is Kurt Lehner, and I've been a industry professional doing comic book art and illustrations and animation for 35 years now. I started off as an animator, doing animation art and character designing for companies like Disney and Warner Brothers and MGM Studios and even DreamWorks. And one of the very first projects that I ever touched my hands on was for Steven Spielberg's Fievel's American Tales, which was an animated series. And then I ended up doing feature films and major TV shows. I was worked on Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas, and I then did worked on Space Jam for Warner Brothers and All Dogs Go to Heaven too for MGM Studios, and then I went did some stuff back at Disney doing Disney's Gargoyles TV show. I was a character designer. I wasn't the only character designer. I was one of a whole crew of them, but I was part of the team and it was very fun. And I really enjoyed that show. I then also worked on a TV show called Jim Lee's Wildcats as well, and the Marvel Action Hour. I retired from animation in let's see, was it 98? I think it was 1998. And I had been doing that for about 15 years already. And so I decided I just wanted to venture on my own. One of the things that, one of the last things that I touched as well was a character that all children all across North America and parts of Europe now know is Franklin the Turtle. And when we um, when we got the Scholastic account at Nelvana Studios in Toronto, they asked me if I wanted to try my stab at doing a few of the main characters just to develop them, and I was happy to work with that. And I didn't actually go on to the design team. I was pre-design. They call it development design, and then it went to a design team, and then I went on to something else, and then eventually I kind of retired. Right. So then what I did was I went on my own and I wanted just to illustrate. I was getting tired of the constant getting up, getting in the car, driving to a studio. The grind was getting a lot. And then the hours, the enormous amount of hours that I had to put in. It was a 9 to 5 job, but sometimes it was not till five. It was,
As they
sometimes seven,
typically
eight,
are.
9, 10, 11. Yeah, yeah, 7 days. And then it's like, okay, so where's my life? So um, so I ended up getting invited because of my film credentials and my TV show credentials. I then got invited to different Comic Cons and entertainment shows, and so then I started getting the ability to create lithographs, collectible lithographs that help launch cinematic universe products. Um, with Disney, with Marvel product, with DC, with Star Wars, Star Trek, stuff like that, and a lot of these pieces are all associated with convention exclusive pieces. This is how the primary thing works, right? So
Yeah.
it's been an exciting, very exciting path that I took on that, where I was able to travel to amazing places and meet amazing people. and become friends with some of the people that I met, and other celebrities, like more higher level celebrities and film celebrities, where it was just an honor to meet them, and now be able to call them a friend, and just things like that. So that's kind of who I am and what I do. And now, I'm going to be coming tomorrow on Saturday to Russkulls Comics and Collectibles, and showcasing my entire catalog of collectible lithographs at a very, very special anniversary discount at the store. So everybody needs to come and visit Russkulls in Lockport, New York, and check them out. Great store, great person, wonderful fellow, and he's so kind and nice, and it's going to be great. And you'll be there.
I will be there. Yeah, I think if I didn't
Great.
show up, he would be angry at me. I'm practically there every day, so helping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So honestly, I don't even know what to ask after that. I think you gave everything, but there's a couple of questions I want to ask. Like, no, you did a phenomenal job. You do what I do when people ask me what I do. So no, that was perfect. I don't know if I can ask anything else, but so
Mhm.
one curious question, I'm just brainstorming. Obviously, you've had an extensive catalog. You've had a lot of achievements. You've done a lot of amazing things that people would dream of. They would look at these movies and be like, "Man, I wish I did that." How young were you when you started? How did you like? What was your main inspiration if you were younger when you started?
Okay, so that's actually a good question. So as a child, and we'll go back all the way to childhood. Okay, as a little tiny boy, I actually was a pretty sick kid as a child. I had a lot of problems. I had severe asthma. I had food allergies, which I still do. I still have the asthma. All these things, which restricted me from other kind of maybe avenues that I wanted to venture into. I mean, the funny story is, at the age of 13, my mother approached me one time and says, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "Well, I probably want to be a hockey player and be on the Toronto Maple Leafs and win the Stanley Cup." And then my mom said, "Well, okay, well, you do play a lot of road hockey, with your friends on the street, but you have really bad asthma, and you can skate okay, but you don't know how to stop really well. So I don't know if that's going to work for you." So I just kind of sit there and was,
That's
so then
probably the
I
most
said, "What
respectful
else?
way of
What
saying
else
that.
are you interested in? Yeah, what else do you like to do?" So I said, "Well, I want to maybe draw comic books or comic art, and maybe something for the X-Men, for Marvel, or, because I was such a huge fan of certain artists, especially John Byrne was one of my heroes, and Neil Adams and John Buscema, Jack Kirby, gentlemen like
Yeah.
that. Michael Zack was a big influence for me too, which now I can say, he's a friend of mine, and things like that. Same with Neil Adams. I became friends with him, right? Just an honor to know these guys and then just sit and talk with them, and all these things. So, but because I was sick a lot as a kid, massive flus in the winter times and so on, I saturated myself. I got really attracted to cartoons. I mean, we had Saturday morning cartoons. There wasn't a Cartoon Network yet, and so on, right? We had to wait till Saturday to watch an entire morning of cartoons, like 6 hours starting at 6 a.m., right? So this is what we lived for. And I just fell in love with that entire world of that industry. Like playing a lot with my toys, and I loved action figures and things like that, back in the 70s and so on. And so this is what really kind of set me into, I guess, my path. And this then launched me to, really pursue my art in elementary school, then junior high school, then high school, and then university. which I went to an art college university, right, in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I graduated from OCAD, which is Ontario College of Art and Design, but now it's OCAD U. When I was there, it was just OCA, Ontario College of Art. So, but it was a university level school, and I studied advertising and illustrating, and always I was known as the comic book guy at the school, right? Everybody knew I loved the Marvel DC heroes, and I'd always be drawing this stuff. So that's how I started, and then I was for 5 years in advertising, and I thought it was a little bit of a I don't know, not as interesting for me personally as I was hoping it was going to be. It was fun. It was good. It was decent work, but at the same time, very high pressure, and not as creative as I would have want. I was kind of under the impression it would be super creative, right? So by the
Yeah.
time that happened, I guess I was in my very early 20s, and then there was a giant recession that hit back in the late 80s, early 90s, and so the advertising companies that I was, uh, you know, called upon to do artwork for through commercial studios and ad agencies, such as Sears and Kmart. And there was there now it's gone, but there was for since the 1600s, there was the very first kind of trade company, like when you used to do trading. I have some fur skin, you give me a rock. I don't know, like, you know what I mean?
No, I know. I
So
actually do, weirdly enough, and I shouldn't at my age, but because that's like
yeah,
far
yeah,
before I was
but
even born.
yeah, and so that was called the Hudson's Bay Company, and we've had it
Hmm.
since the sometime in the 1600s, right? And
Yeah.
now just recently it closed its doors. It was like you're like a Macy's for in the U.S., and
Yeah.
and so they closed up, and so we don't have these stores. But I used to do ads for them and all these different companies, right? So then I was in between work, and I did a part-time work in the fitness industry, and I became an assistant manager at that point for one of the big companies in Toronto. And then I got a phone call from a friend. And my friend said, "You got to get back into the business. You can't you're too essential in the industry. You got to keep going. You went to school for this stuff." And I agreed. So he said, they're hiring at an animation studio in Toronto, and one of our school chums from university happened to be working there at the time. So I called him up. He had me he connected me with one of the supervisors and directors and so on. And I went in. I had to do an art test. I took it home and spent 3 days on this thing. And they really liked this art test. And I got hired, and 15 years in the business. So in my 20s is when I started. But I was already doing. Um, uh, I had some small connections, like, so there used to be a an amazing comic book store in Toronto, way downtown in the core of the city, called Dragon Lady Comics, and it was a really cool retro, like back from the looked like from the 60s 70s style comic book store. Like, you went in and you smelt the paper. It was so cool, right? And it just so happened that the owner of that store taught at my high school and was one of my history teachers, right? And so I connected with him, and he invited me to come to these comic book conventions that he put on at the Westin Hotel in Toronto. And I got to sit at a table and sit with other artists, like pros that I got to meet. Like, I got to meet Murphy Anderson one time and his wife, and I was blown away. I sat right beside him, and I was like, kind of, I was geeking out. Like, I was just a student still in school, right? And but he gave me some opportunities. I remember the very first show I went to. I came, and he says, no, you come as, you come as my guest. You're one of my students, right? So I came there, and I asked for him. His name was John Burnett, and not to be confused with John Byrne, just as John Burnett, right? So
Yeah.
he didn't look anything like him. Didn't look anything like. They don't look alike. So, but anyways, he says, just ask for me when you come to the doors. So I did, and he found me, and he says, yeah, come on in, come on in, and then as soon as I walk in the doors, there's a gentleman that comes over to him to ask him some questions, and it was a celebrity that he invited to the show, and it happened to be Walter Koenig from Chekhov from Star Trek, the original series. And I was like, whoa! And I said hi to him, and I have met Walter quite a few times now, and he's a very nice man. But the highlight was when that happened that same day. I went into a panel, and I was so excited, and I sat in the front row of this panel, and I didn't move. And this man, he comes in, and I mean, he was one of my heroes, big time heroes, right? And I met him only once, and I was so shy at the time, and but I watched him, and he had some newsprint, like a big giant newsprint pad on an easel, and he had a Sharpie, just a black Sharpie. And he started talking, and then he started just demonstrating this character, and he was drawing this famous character that he was known for. And I was blown away because he started off with, the nose, and then he did some eyes, and then he did an ear, and then he went on the side of the cheek, and before you knew it, he was developing this character. There was no understructure. He knew how to draw this character, I guess, from his memory, like there was no tomorrow. And I sat there watching John Buscema draw Conan, and I was like, holy crap, like I want to be able to do that someday, and
Yeah.
so now we're talking on this video, and I was able to accomplish this stuff. And um to answer your question, I was young. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and
So like me, 19.
you're right. And I was so passionate about it, and this was the world I wanted to be part of. And for anybody out there, and I hope this is okay, that I just extend your question into other young people like yourselves, and others all around, not only the USA, Canada, and the world. If you want to get in this business, you have to breathe it. You have to live it. You have to eat it, basically. This has to become who you are, and that you are so dedicated to doing this stuff. And I was, and now that I'm, quite a bit older, I still have the passion for it, but things do slow down a little bit, right? And but I was so fortunate and so thankful, and so honored. There's no, I don't even know what the words are, to be honest. I mean, it was the most humbling thing that ever happened to me in my career. But it's a big launch pad of who I am and what I'm known for. And so in 2012, I did a launch art piece for the Avengers motion picture when it first came out, the first Avengers film, right, for Marvel Studios. And so I did this for the Chicago Comic-Con through Wizard World Entertainment, right? And
Yeah.
so I happened to know that Stan Lee was at the show, and I had met Stan before a few times, and I went over, and he remembered me and everything, and which was quite an honor. His memory was just solid, right? And I showed him this Avengers art piece. I said, I you never seen this finished, and I showed it to him, and he spent about 30 seconds just studying it and looking at it. It was silent, and it made me a little nervous because he likes to
Yeah.
talk, and if he doesn't talk, then maybe something's wrong. But this was not the case at all. And I said, I hope you like it, Stan. I hope you like it. And he studied it, and he then put his hand, he had his hand on his face like this, and he was looking down at it and he was studying it. And then he took his hand away from his face and he says, "What's not to like? Kurt, your work's outstanding. And if you could draw like this in the 1970s, when I know you were just a child, but I would have hired you on the spot. You come into my office in New York City." And wow, right then and there, I was like, this man did not just say this. Oh my goodness, right? I was on cloud nine, and I was you almost want to come to tears, because that's one of the biggest heroes in the business that you dream about connecting with or something like that. So
Yeah.
then, 2013, the year after, so 2012, I show him this Avengers piece that's been pretty viral all around the world, right? People have it all in their homes and so on. And then in 2013, I run into him again at a convention, and he says, "Kurt, I love what you do. I love your work, and um, it would be great if you could do a tribute piece for me." And I was like, like my eyes bugged out,
Yeah.
like, what?
I have to keep
And
an eye out in case, because I have my stuff inside. So if I'm
yes,
looking
and
up, it's not. I am listening.
right. No, and and I made this for him, and he loved it, and he said it's one of his favorite pieces that somebody has done for him. And the piece, it's the portrait piece with all the characters around him, and it's at Ruskill's store. You've seen it.
Yeah.
You've seen it when you met me the first time. And so this is a real special piece, and I became an official commissioned artist for Stanley personally in 2013, and I did a couple of other pieces that are very, very similar to that for him with his portraits and stuff. And I to this day, as I sit here talking to you, sometimes I'll stare up into the abyss and go, well, did that actually happen, or was this a dream? And then you kind of go, no, this was real. Oh, whoa, how did this even happen, right? And
Yeah.
I'm still like, I'm still in awe sometimes about, wow, you know because you can never, and this is again for young people who want to get into the industry, even children who love to draw and say, oh, maybe I could draw Spider-Man, or I could draw Superman, or I could draw Captain America, or whatever. And you have to stay very, very humble. You have to be a very humble
Yes.
person. You cannot inflate your head and go, well, I became an official commission artist for Stan Lee, and wow, look at me now. Look, I'm so amazing. You cannot do that. There's no
I
way. And if anybody tries to edit this video and try to um, play with the words, what I just said, that's not cool. That's not cool, and no one should ever do that, because it's very
No.
specific what I'm saying.
No,
That
you're saying the
it's
exact opposite of
I,
having an ego. So I get it. Yeah.
you
If
got it
someone
right.
plays with that, I would be very surprised because it's like you were talking against that. But I do have three questions lined
Yes,
up for
and
you. So
because you're creating this video, you have the right then to go and say rebuttal to these people and go, "That's not what he said." You know.
hey, one thing is that I take this very seriously is I don't like when people use people's names in vain. So even with me
Yeah.
myself, I'll actually echo your humbleness. I try to be humble, but it's almost to the point where I actually downgrade my work. Because it's really funny because I've
Mm-hmm.
met, even recently, meeting the mayor of our city, Lockport, being on Common Council, how many
Mm-hmm.
people are surprised, or being 19 and talking to a friggin' celebrity artist right now on a video chat while standing outside
Mm-hmm.
Crosby's. It's a very weird experience, because most kids my age are like in college. I'm talking to Kurt Lehner, you've met Stan Lee, so I can absolutely understand the humbleness. And that's one thing I take very seriously, even with my work, is don't ever use someone's name in vain. Unless you know them,
No,
don't do that. So
yes,
the three
but
questions got
I
lined up for
see it
you.
all the time.
Sorry.
People do it. People do it, and they're I don't know. They're just bad apples out there, and they should be you know never doing things like that, and because it's not accurate, it's not true. and it will then it will backfire on anybody that tries to manipulate a video or manipulate somebody's words, to twist it and to say, well, then there's something wrong with these people when they do this, right? And it's happened to a lot of people. You see it all the time with celebrities and other people, famous people, and so on. And it should never happen. You have to be accurate, and you have to understand that, when I say something, or anybody says something, and they use an example in sarcasm or something, like, oh, I think I'm so good. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what
No,
I'm saying,
no. I actually make that point a lot with the lack of media literacy. Some of the novels I'm reading right now, because I've been reading The Prince by Nicholas Machiavelli, and every time I say Machiavelli, I get two responses.
Mhm.
Either it's eye roll, or someone's like, "That's interesting. What do you think?" So I
Yeah.
understand that heavily. I'm actually going to tie this into my next question for you. This is one of my favorite
Sure.
questions to ask. Maybe a little deeper than interviewers usually go. So I'll use an example with what I'm kind of asking, and then I'll ask it. With my work, I am driven heavily by philosophy, psychology, even in my art pieces, even though it's a lesser form. Because when you first met me, I might have had my first book out, but now I've got like 20 works. I've done some short films here and there. Now I'm doing this interview, So a lot of my philosophy on things, being like philosophers of Machiavelli or being my inspiration or aesthetic, I guess what I'm going to ask you is what is your aesthetic? You kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's like that Saturday cartoon. It's bringing that out. It's the old comic book nostalgia. But what is your philosophy moving forward? How are you when you approach your art? How does that philosophy come alive? What is your why behind what you do, other than just like
Okay.
Saturday cartoons? What's your drive?
Yeah. So my drive now is to keep primarily alive everything that I remember as a child. My childhood was so cool. I grew up in the 70s. I became a teenager in the 80s, and everything back then was a certain rhythm, a certain understanding. There were enormous amounts of good values, that people stood by. There was good, there was evil, there was right,
Yeah,
there was wrong. You know what I mean? And superheroes and great cartoon characters were very predominantly depicted in that time period, as very, very good for children, kind, noble, protective. Um, these kinds of things, especially superheroes, but a lot of, like, even you watch a cartoon like Scooby Doo, for example. It's going to be, you watch the original TV shows. It's all about trying to find out what happened, and who's this bad guy, and how did he commit this crime, and we got to bring him to justice, and so on. So this is really what keeps me focused today. I try through my artwork, if this is the easiest way for me to explain it, is I relive my childhood and all the values of my childhood, um, morals, all these things, the innocences of my childhood at that time period. And I constantly relive my childhood through my art by doing, all this kind of retro style art from the 60s, 70s, 80s style work, sometimes even golden age work from the 40s and so on, and I get very, very excited. This is what really fuels me right now in my art, to create these collectibles for fans to hang in their home. And I'm a big believer of dreaming dreams.
dream.
And
Yeah,
you know I love to dream dreams. My head's sometimes staring out the window, and I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking and pondering and going, what could contribute to societies today that would enhance um, things, so I hope through my art, which I've had an enormous reception all around the world of the kind of art that I do, and just the memories. I think that it helps bring back um, for people. I get told constantly, "You helped create my childhood." Well, that's wonderful. Some of the heroes I met helped create my childhood. So you pass it on, right?
Yeah.
And It's an honor to be able to do this. But that's what drives me. Is my childhood drives me to do what I do today.
So it sounds like your whole philosophy here, if I could break it down, is basically when you were a child, you had all these great things, and now that you're in the position to be able to draw this and bring this, you want to bring this to the world. You want to bring this almost what's become abstract with age, or in the modern society, these older characters, to bring that back, bring that nostalgia back, and maybe it's not just about preserving tradition, but also showing how tradition could evolve to today. Am I wrong? Am I right? Did
Well,
I
I
hit the
think
nail on
you
the
got a
head?
good point on that. Yeah, I think you got a
Okay.
good angle, and it's also to help, yes, preserving. So, but also to sharing with new generations
Yes.
on what was, in order so that we can then have new, right? So it's very important. I was an educator for many years. I had my
What
own
haven't you done?
education company. Yeah, I had my own educational company where I went into schools and and especially here in Ontario, Canada. I did so many schools, and I brought special programs for students from kindergarten all the way to high school and even college at times. And um, what my whole focus is to help people, and especially younger people, to understand how important it is to know, where did it come from, how did this all start, and to absolutely respect, with in like everything in you, to respect what the original creators of comic books and cartoons and so on, their visions, so that we can continue doing what we do and never, uh, you know, stop or forget the beginning parts of this, and to try to adapt many of those essential beginning aspects into new product, new ideas, because what was started, to be honest, was some of the greatest of all time stuff. And we can never dismiss that or say, oh, I'm just going to do my own thing now. I don't care about that stuff. No, you have to care. You have to kind of become almost like a historian with all this, learn all those things, so that then you as an individual can become the best you can be based on your understanding of everything that was.
I understand that heavily. In the comic book world,
Mhm.
I could understand that, but even with what I do, as a writer, as a musician, even with the artwork I do, where when I do my more upcycle work, I kind of just try to reflect what they originally did with that character, maybe add my own jazz. But I think that's really
Mhm.
important too, because even moving forward with my work, it's been a joke lately that I am the anti-author. I'm the contrarian. Where you tell me you should do it this way, I'll give you 10 challenges of why we should go the other way. So I actually
Mhm.
respect the heck out of what you're saying, because you need someone like me who's going to look you in the face and be like, I do like that character was originally a hero, but let's make him an anti-hero. Let's see what their philosophy would apply to, because both are very
Mhm.
important. So I respect the heck out of that. I'll say I'm trying to keep it a little PG
Mhm.
here. The second question I'm going to ask you, I've been having a lovely conversation. I've been loving hearing you talk. There's a joke I have for people who talk like you, where it's like, that sounds wrong the way I word it, but my joke is usually that when I meet people like you, you're the type of people where I'd get a coffee, sit down, and I was only supposed to be at that cafe for 1 hour. We're there for 4 hours, you know? So I love people who can talk really well. And that's something I try to tell a lot of my peers or people who ask me advice. My joke is never shut up. So
Yeah.
I, following that into my next question, I've been kind of improving them now because my original format was completely just overhauled by your original statement when you came on. I have recently just joined Gliss, and I've actually gotten back more into the community and meeting more younger people. And I've had a lot of people ask me, even people who are older than me, people often forget I'm 19, how I do what I do. And although I could give them the answer I do, and I usually say I'm not a professional, though, what would you inspire in younger people? What is your greatest advice in the fact of like maybe making connections, maybe getting out there, maybe words of encouragement per se, because I see a lot of younger people who kind of need this creativity, but perhaps they were discouraged or don't believe in themselves enough to go through with it, but need it at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Well, thank you for bringing this question, first of all, because we now live in a time window which has changed quite rapidly, from a very, very long staple of understanding certain ways, certain patterns, certain philosophies, certain morals, certain everything, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I have encountered quite a lot, and it is unfortunately, whether you want to agree with it or not, it really becomes kind of irrelevant because reality is still reality. And when a young person who possibly has been handed many, many things to them from loving parents who want to spoil their kids and just make sure that they're sheltered and that no harm comes to them, and you know no one can ever say that that kind of loving a child or loving a person is wrong. It's not, because you want to love this other human being. You have a child and so on. But what happens is, unfortunately, if you coddle a child a lot, or you're overprotective, or you're helicopter parent, or whatever these new terms are. I'm not an expert in any way on these things, but there is a commonality here, right? And what happens is, and you see it day to day, all you have to do is go walk down the street, you go into a store, you do whatever. Young people have something at times, not everybody, but it is a big component sometimes nowadays, which is called entitlement. And
So
entitlement is you know, it is a harmful thing that has developed, because if you have not earned something in life, you have not earned your friendships, you have not earned a good job, if you've not earned a relationship with a partner, you really worked hard to develop a good relationship with your parents, or you want to get married someday, or whatever it is, right? And or even with your children, if you haven't developed a proper uh, aspect like that, you have no means to feel entitled to anything. You know, there's many people out there that feel, well, my family has very wealthy companies. Why
yeah,
do I have to work? Why do I have to work hard? Well, you have to work hard because you're still called upon, with certain values within society, to contribute well and be a positive aspect so that people can also then learn from you. If you don't do that, then you are an adherent to society in a certain aspect, only because what are you doing? You're just kind of wasting things, right? And you want to be proud of yourself. Like with your art, your music, your writing, you want to be proud of yourself. It's a different kind of pride. Like it's a
Yeah,
pride that your accomplishments helps define the hard work that you've put into something, which is then so valuable. But if you don't do that, then where's the value? You know what I mean? So,
I absolutely understand that. Yeah. No, I respect that heavily because I've seen that. I've also seen the people who get really demotivated because I've seen both sides. Like I've seen what you're talking about, but I've also seen like parents who are like, "That's stupid. Don't go for that." Blah 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 blah. Blah. I think you need a good, healthy dose of both contrarianism and actual motivation. Where it's both, hey, so you
mhm,
told me I can't do this, I'm going to do this, which is kind of where I got. I'm going to have to let you go
mhm.
soon. So I got to finish this up because my
Sure.
battery's dying.
Yeah,
But
yeah, okay.
I've seen both. So I think the most important thing here is understand when you are entitled, understand your worth, but be humble about it. So like a good example with
Yeah,
me is
and
that I've had,
feel entitled. Don't feel entitled to anything because you're not.
you're not,
Unfortunately, it's
no.
just not the way the world works. You know what I mean? You
The only
think you
thing
can
you're,
manipulate the
sorry.
world to do it, but it does. It's going to backfire. The problem
The
is for the young people out there, it will backfire. Don't do that. Work hard, achieve, be proud of the achievements that you've accomplished, because other people will appreciate you, and then you're okay. You know?
I agree. And the only thing I'm going to keep in mind is know your self worth. Don't let people push you around. It was a pleasure talking to
That's
you
right.
today. I got to get going because my phone
Yeah.
battery is like crapping on me.
Not a
It was a
problem. Not a
pleasure.
problem.
There's a lot here, so I'm really glad I talked to you today. I look forward to seeing you
Well, the
tomorrow,
one question
Saturday.
before you go, one question I read is, if you could be a comic book character, who would you be? I'd be
Oh
Superman.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
I
Be
could. I just
Superman.
love Superman to death. Right? So, one of my
We got
favorite
a call
characters
and
of all time. So,
you like annihilated all the questions
yeah.
I was going to ask, and I'm like, okay, improv time. So it was a pleasure talking to you, Kurt
I don't
Lehner.
look anything like Superman, but I would love to be just like Superman, you know?
Hey, you know that would make a better Superman. I'm gonna let you go now. It was a pleasure talking to you. Go to
Sounds good.
Russkulls
Thank
Comics
you. We'll
Saturday
see you
11th.
tomorrow at the show. We'll
See you
see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow
I'll
at the
probably talk your
anniversary
ear
show.
off. I'll
Great. Take
see all you
care.
guys
Bye
tomorrow.
bye.
Adios.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.